In a world that never stops moving, we'll keep you informed, delivering the latest national top stories and what's trending on social media, all delivered with context and clarity. In just a few minutes, you'll be up to date on the latest information. The first story is the latest on the supply chain disruptions caused by the UPS plane crash in Kentucky. UPS and FedEx have grounded their flights of the MD-11 cargo aircrafts out of an abundance of caution, which affects roughly 9% of UPS's fleet. UPS has issued service alerts warning customers of possible delivery delays. I want to know how quickly the UPS can be fully restored. Will customers with shipments delayed receive compensation? Will there be a major supply chain ripple effect? Are other carriers absorbing the loads? Are shipping rates changing because of reduced capacity? With the holiday season here, will the e-commerce businesses be affected? In my opinion, it's going to be a shipping major fiasco. Next, we go to the National Guard in Portland, Oregon. A federal judge, Karen Immergut, has issued a permanent injunction blocking the Trump administration from deploying the National Guard in Portland, Oregon. The judge argued that the protest around ICE facility in Portland did not meet the legal threshold of rebellion. I want to know, will the Trump administration appeal this ruling? In my opinion, the protesters are emotionally triggered with a concern for loved ones, but the enforcers are trying to uphold the law. I think there will be no easy resolution to this conflict, and the new rulings may embolden the protesters even more. The next story is about the latest development in SNAP benefits. The Supreme Court has temporarily blocked a lower court order that would have required the federal government to provide full SNAP benefits for November. Some states, like California and Colorado, are moving ahead to issue full SNAP benefit payments for November despite the wider legal uncertainty. The news of this goes back and forth one day to the next. One day giving hope and the next it's despair. Next, we go to the latest developments in the travel crisis caused by the government shutdown. The FAA has delayed flights in 8 major airports due to staffing shortages among air traffic controllers tied to the ongoing federal government shutdown. Will the shutdown end soon, or will the FAA's threat of 20% flight cuts become a reality? In my opinion, the airport staff should pull through and continue to work at full capacity and collect their back pay later. Are they using this as an excuse to take a vacation? If they need temporary operating funds, they can apply for a loan. Next is the newest on Zohran Mamdani. 2 Republican representatives are pushing the Department of Justice to investigate Mamdani's path to U.S. citizenship, alleging issues with his naturalization process. Of course, Mamdani and his supporters call this racist and Islamophobic. In my opinion, people cry racism too much. Next, we go to the government shutdown. There are several new developments about the U.S. federal government shutdown. The United States Senate is holding a rare Saturday session. The Democrats propose reopening the government in exchange for 1-year extension of health insurance tax credits. Some Republicans are floating the idea of a flat spending rate to end the shutdown without major new spending. In my opinion, there are not enough consequences for these idiots in Washington. We need to hold them accountable for shutting down our government. Next, there's an update about the Supreme Court and same-sex marriage. The court is considering whether to hear a petition from Kim Davis, a former Kentucky county clerk, who refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples, requesting that the court overturn the landmark ruling Obergefell v. Hodges that legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. If the 4 justices agree to take the case, it would mark the first major effort in about a decade to revisit the ruling. In my opinion, there is no such thing as same-sex marriage. Next, we go to Trump's tariffs. There are several fresh developments regarding Donald Trump's tariff policy. The Supreme Court of the United States heard oral arguments questioning the legality of Trump's sweeping tariff program. But trade experts believe that even if the Supreme Court rules against Trump's tariffs, the U.S. will likely continue tariff levels. Businesses globally are bracing for a new round of U.S. tariffs. Some spectators are already feeling the effects. In my opinion, we should let Trump see what he can do with the tariff strategy. Even though it will sting for a little while, the result may be worth it in the end. Next is Nancy Pelosi. Pelosi announced that she will not seek re-election in 2026, ending her nearly 40-year tenure in the U.S. House of Representatives. California Attorney General Rob Bonta has endorsed State Senator Scott Wiener to succeed Pelosi in representing San Francisco's district. The announcement triggered a wave of tributes from Democratic colleagues calling Pelosi an historic figure, but her constituents are sharply criticizing her legacy and are welcoming her departure. In my opinion, she should have retired 100 years ago. Next, Trump goes to Hungary. There's new news about Donald Trump meeting with Hungary's Viktor Orban. During the meeting, the U.S. has granted Hungary a one-year exemption from U.S. sanctions on Russia oil and gas imports, and Hungary will commit to purchasing roughly $600 million worth of U.S. liquefied natural gas. In my opinion, it seems like a good deal for both sides. Next, Melody Buzzard's disappearance. The latest updates on Melody Buzzard, age 9, and the ongoing investigation into her disappearance. Her mother, Ashley Buzzard, was arrested on November 7, 2025, in Santa Barbara County on unrelated false imprisonment charges, though those charges are not directly tied to Melody's disappearance. Investigators released new surveillance footage from October 7th that shows Melody with her mother at a car rental agency, both wearing wigs, at the rental vehicle later taking a suspected cross-country trip. Officials have narrowed their focal timeline and interest between October 9th and October 10th, when Ashley returned to the rental car to California alone, but Melody was not in the vehicle. In my opinion, anyone who hurts a child deserves to burn in hell for eternity after his suffering here on Earth. Next, we go to Prop 50. There's no fresh news about Prop 50 in California. However, California voters approved Prop 50, which authorizes the state's legislature to redraw congressional district maps for 2026. The measure is projected to help Democrats flip as many as 5 U.S. House seats in California. California Republicans have already filed a federal lawsuit challenging Prop 50, alleging that the maps were drawn to favor Latino voters and thus violate constitutional protections. In my opinion, it was a scam pulled by the Democrats. Next, we go to the gubernatorial races. There's not much news here about the 2025 gubernatorial races in Virginia and New Jersey, both of which were won by Democrats, but here are the key details. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger won the governor's race, defeating Republican winsome Earl Sears. Her margin of victory was large enough to indicate a strong Democratic swing. In New Jersey, Mickey Sherrill won the governorship, defeating Republican Jack Centrelli by a substantial margin. Both wins are being interpreted as a boost for Democrats, particularly as an early barometer for the 2026 midterms. Analysts note that voter concern over the economy, cost of living, and dissatisfaction with recent notarial trends play a large role. Next, it's about the Pentagon. There are several new updates about Pete Hegseth and the Department of Defense. Here's a breakdown of what's happening. Hegseth announced that the Pentagon will revamp its acquisition systems to operate on wartime footing, prioritizing speed, capability over cost alone. The DoD will also restructure the foreign military sales process to speed up delivery to the Allies. Next, we go to ICE. There are several recent developments in ICE involving young children and toddlers. Here are the updates. In Los Angeles, federal immigration agents arrested a father in a parking lot of a Home Depot and then drove off with his toddler still strapped in the back seat of the car. The child was later reunited with the family, but the incident has sparked outrage and questions about law enforcement protocols. ICE announced plans to open a national call center in Nashville, Tennessee, aimed at locating unaccompanied migrant children who entered the U.S. illegally. The center is expected to handle 6,000 to 7,000 daily calls and be operational by June 2026. In Chicago, ICE officers were observed arresting a child care worker at a daycare center. It's one of the first known instances of enforcement actions inside a school or daycare facility, ever since the protections for sensitive locations were weakened. And about social media, there's a growing trend on how political parties, especially Democrats, are using creator influencers and short video formats to shape messaging. This digital strategy is generating both high engagement and lots of critical commentary online. That's the latest. I'm bringing the facts, not the noise. Thanks for watching, and until next time, farewell.